The last few years, I feel like I've been on a journey to learn how to better trust in the Lord in my own life. And one of my favorite things that I've learned throughout that is that just understanding at a deeper level that the Lord always knows. He always knows, and He always knew what was going to happen, even when we feel like what has taken place in our lives is completely out of the blue or unexpected, or we might even say things like this wasn't supposed to happen. I was reading this last week in the book of Helaman about in the book of Helaman in the book of Mormon about the prophet Samuel the Lamanite, who came before Jesus Christ was born, and he prophesied about the coming of Jesus Christ. And he had been preaching in a city prophesying about the coming of Jesus Christ, and no one was listening, and so he left. And the scriptures say that he was on his way back to his own land when the Lord told him to go back. So I feel like so many times and throughout most of my life, I've just read the scripture stories and they're very flat. And I've been trying to really think about um, what some of these things must have felt like and the emotions that must have been involved. I mean, for a lot of people, it's scary enough to put yourself out there. And then on top of it, no one wants to listen and no one believes you and no one likes you. So much so that you're leaving alone. You went in alone and you're leaving alone. And now the Lord's saying, go back to that place where you were rejected. Go back to that place where no one cared about what you had to say. Go back to that place where you were offering your heart and soul to share what you know is true, to share about the coming of Jesus Christ. Go back there to all those people who were rejecting you. And when we think about what does it mean that they were rejecting him, were people yelling at him in the streets? Were people um, telling him he was an idiot? Like, what kind of names were they using for him? What kinds of faces did they pull at him, and how must that have felt in his heart? Were people spitting on him? You know, who knows? Like, all of the emotions that must have been involved. But Samuel was faithful, and so he turned back around and he headed back to this city where he had been rejected. And they wouldn't even let him inside the city gates. So I thought to myself, you know, if I was Samuel and I had gotten back to the city gates and they're not letting me in, what my response had been? Would I maybe have been like, okay, Lord, like you told me to come back here and now they're not even letting me in? Or, excuse me, Heavenly Father, why did you tell me to do this? This is stupid. This is painful. This is ridiculous. This is pointless. Like, what kinds of emotions might he have felt, and what might I have felt? Or maybe Samuel was just faithful and said, okay, Lord, they're not letting me in the gates. Now what should I do? Well, obviously they didn't let him in the gates. And just as I read that, I thought, you know, the Lord knew when he told Samuel to turn back around and go back. He knew that they weren't going to let him in. Samuel just didn't know that. And so I think that I know that parallels to our own lives, that sometimes we feel guided or prompted to do something and we show up at the gates of the city and the doors won't open. And that's where the adversary tries to trip us up and say, yeah, you are a little bit crazy. What were you thinking? Or, you know, you're not really in tune with the Spirit. Or, this is stupid. Why are you even doing this? You know, those kinds of thoughts, they totally come in, try to turn us around. But Samuel stayed true to what he knew the Lord had inspired him to do. So then we learn that Samuel climbed up on the wall. And what I love about this, as I thought about it, was that the fact that he went into the city, or he went back to the city, and he wasn't able to get in, provided the perfect opportunity for a miracle to take place and for the Lord to show his hand. Because Samuel had to get up on the wall, and now he had access to a lot of people at one time, to be able to bear witness and prophesy to a lot of people at one time. And he it provided an opportunity for the Lord to like I said, show his hand and provide a miracle, which was while Samuel was on top of the wall, people were trying to kill him with bows and arrows. And so imagine standing on top of a huge city wall, and this must have been a big wall. How many people, hundreds of people, who for their livelihood, for their survival, shoot animals. Like that's what they do. They use bow and arrows daily. Like I'm pretty sure they're good at shooting. And he's just out there with nothing in their way, just this open target, and no one can hit him. No one did hit him. And I thought, how many more people were converted because they saw that happen? Because they saw that this messenger of God could not be hit with the arrows. Like, that's amazing. So I just loved reading this and getting that insight again, and having the Spirit remind me that in my own life, sometimes we've been guided to do things, and we've been asked to do things that are right and that God really does want us to do, but there's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be, where there's light, there's going to be dark. Where there's good, there's going to be bad. There's opposition in all things, and because this is a war that's ongoing against good and evil, there's always going to be something trying to stop you. So this just taught me to remember to take courage in the things that I feel like I've been guided and asked to do, and to trust in the Lord, and trust and know that whatever blocks come up, whatever issues or challenges come up, like he's planning for them, and he can foresee them. He's an omnipotent God. So whatever situation you may be in your life, just remember that he always knew that this is the way that it was going to be, and that he's with you, he sees you, and he has a way prepared.